So I will send the link to you afterwards. May I ask that you please remain muted, and you can even choose to switch off your video. In this way, if you need to move around, then there's no distraction for anybody else. As you can see, the chat room is open, so please feel free to add any questions or comments throughout the encounter. If I had told you a year ago that Zoom would become a form of entertainment, we would have laughed. I don't think we knew the word Zoom. Yet, here we are. And I get a sense that this platform will be here to stay for a while. The silver lining for me is that we now get to connect with people and have the privilege of conversations with inspiring people from around the world in the comfort of our lounge. So with that, it is my great privilege to introduce three beautiful hosts from three beautiful brands. First off is Diane, who is the author of Bibi's Kitchen. And I'm sure a lot of you have been paging through the beautiful book and being inspired by the gorgeous images and recipes. Bibi, in fact, was a dress designer and left fashion design behind to put on an apron. And she's never looked back. She has a wonderfully successful food journey, and she has become the household name in South Africa, with all of us watching her beautiful images and following her recipes daily on social media. The book, I'm sure you'll all agree, has such a diverse selection of recipes, from vegan to traditional South African recipes, that there really is something for all of us. A lovely thing I read about Diane is her day starts off with a purple Nespresso, hot and strong, and most times she enjoys a rusk. So you certainly can't go wrong with the start of the day like that. Our second host is the beautiful Labashni Reddy. She is the national executive for Estee Lauder companies, and she oversees the Estee Lauder and La Mer brands. She's had a long career with the company, and certainly with her luxe, customer service, attention to detail, and high touch just become the norm. In 2013, Lee was awarded the Global Leonard A. Lauder Award for volunteer service. And she was flown to New York, where she had dinner in the Lauder home with Mr. Lauder. An incredible story, and something I think for perhaps another encounter. Lee's a dynamic team player, a strong leader, and I think most of her work is involved with giving presentations. And this afternoon, you'll see exactly why. And thirdly, our next ambassador is Paula McKenzie. She's the Oncom manager for Vinimark Trading, which is the largest independent wine specialists in South Africa. And they have an incredible portfolio of wines. Paula, again, highly skilled in the hospitality industry, with a history of running beautiful boutique hotels. So she's as passionate about food and service as she is about wines. And by the way, during lockdown, Paula and her mum went through every recipe of Bibi's Kitchen and made every single recipe in the book. So ladies, without any further ado, I give you Diane Bibi, who is passionate to share her pavlova. Thank you. Enjoy.
Thank you, Lorna. Okay, everybody. Hello?
I can hear you perfectly.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Perfect, perfect. Just wanted to say a very warm welcome to everybody. It's such a new way of doing food is online. So I hope that this afternoon you'll be inspired. Even though we're doing food differently, we're doing life a little bit differently, it's still a magical part of our life is food. And this afternoon, I've decided to do a beautiful Persian pavlova. I think if you've had a look through the book quickly, you'll know that I've got a really deep love for Middle Eastern food. And this particular pavlova is just a celebration of those really happy, bright, colorful, flavorful ingredients that they would use in Persian food. So it also ties in so beautifully with the Le Mer product. It's soft and voluptuous, creamy, and it's just elegant. And I think a little bit of escapism for all of us, and there's nothing better than food and desserts in particular that can do that. So we're going to be looking at different techniques, and we're going to be discussing what are the little secret tips and tricks to a really good pavlova, and why is it so intimidating for so many people. So I love, as I'm going along, please just jump in with your questions. If you've got anything to say, anything that is not clear, I'm really happy to chat about that, and we can talk about alternatives, because food at the end of the day has to be easy, has to be doable, or otherwise we just don't want to engage with it. So just to get ahead, because this is almost TV, I've prepared a pavlova and done all the whipping beforehand. So I'm going to just discuss with you as I go along what is really important when you want to do a pavlova. So if you don't have a scale, don't worry about it. You can do cup measurements, because I think our grannies all baked beautifully and they never had a scale and grammage and all of that. So, and it wasn't as precise, but it's just ratios. So if you want to have a ballpark to work by, it's usually 1 egg white to a quarter cup of caster sugar. And it's always important to use fine caster sugar so that it dissolves really easily into the egg whites. Very important is a clean and grease-free bowl. So it allows the eggs just to be very voluminous, and if you have anything greasy in it or it's not properly clean, then obviously it's going to retard that and you won't get that beautiful lift and volume. So in here, I've prepared the egg white meringue already. So you're going to be looking for these beautiful fluffy peaks. So I'm sure you can all have a look through there. And where it's at this stage, it's almost like a glossy peak, and then it's ready. So you can over whip your egg whites, so just be careful not to go too far, otherwise it will start losing the volume and you won't get that beautiful lift either. So at this point, we're going to add in our flavouring. So you can add the rose water in here, or you can just use vanilla, and obviously an acid. So we add in either lemon juice or vinegar, and also the corn flour. So we'll chat about that, or you can ask me questions why we actually add that. I'm going to pop this in quickly, and I'm just going to fold it through with my whisk too. And then a little bit of cornstarch. So the cornstarch is really to stabilize the egg white when you're baking it, so that it holds its shape beautifully. I just sift this over lightly, and then I'll just use my balloon whisk here just to get it all through. You can also just fold it through with your spatula if you like. Okay, and then the handiest little tip with the meringue, because it can be quite a challenge to get this paper to stay down. You just dot it all over the base, and then just stick it, so it's basically just your glue. So that's nice and stable. Just put this aside, and then you can scrape out your glossy meringue. So I'm going to make one. There's so many options with meringues. You can do little individual nests, which are fabulous if you like to do plated food and you want everybody to have a beautifully plated and portioned piece. Because you know, when you eat a pavlova, when you bring it to the table, that's as good as it's going to look, because once you cut it, it sort of breaks down a little bit. So you can do individual ones, or you could do small ones. Still here?
Diane, while you smooth the meringue onto the baking sheet, we have a question from Mpho.
Yes.
And she asks, if you're allergic to eggs, can I use chickpea water? I think the term is aquafaba. I think that's the correct term. Will it peak and will it look like what you've created out of egg whites?
You know what, it's really, it's probably the best option. It's quite revolutionary that you can do it with chickpea water, and it's also really, really good for, as a vegan option if you love pavlova. So it's not going to peak as beautifully as this, but it's going to give a brilliant lift. And I think important then is that you use the vinegar or the acid and the cornstarch, which is going to stabilize it, and it will also help to keep it shaped better when you're baking it. So it behaves slightly differently, and obviously the flavor is slightly different, but it really is an incredible alternative to people that are allergic to eggs or for vegan options.
Perfect, thank you. And one more question. Rennie says, I'm diabetic. What can I use instead of fine sugar?
Okay, you can use xylitol. With xylitol, you've got to remember that it does have a little bit of a bitter aftertaste. So sometimes when I'm doing for diabetics, then I'll use a balance. I like to spread it out over different sweeteners so that you don't have a prominence of one particular flavor. So if you can have honey, but like limited amount of it, I would then combine it with the honey. You can also use like rice syrup would also work. But I would say xylitol, they make a very fine caster sugar xylitol now that's specific for baking. So that's a really handy option to have, and then balance it maybe with a little bit of honey as well, just so that you don't have that really bitterness.
Thanks, Diane. If you have a second more whilst you're doing that,
Yes.
what's your best cooking tip that you've learned or discovered? And this question is from Marion.
Okay. There's so many things that you learn along the way that are quite simple things, but maybe are the best things. And for me, that would be is to work out your own signature style when cooking and baking, trusting your palate, trust your taste, because it's going to be different from everybody else. So I think just stay true to what you really love. It's really honest food with good ingredients, and even simple ingredients can sing when you cook them really well. So it's just to cook within the seasons, cook what's available, because it will always taste the best. It will always have the most character. And I think that's it for me, really. It's just interpret it in your own way.
Brilliant. Thank you, Marion, for that great question. Please carry on with this gorgeous
Right,
masterpiece.
so here we go. Can you all see? I think if I move it back a little bit, maybe it's better. Right, so you'll see here I've got this baking tray on a Lazy Susan. So it's hardly a Lazy Susan. It can be a Lazy Susan or a revolving cake decorating like swivel, and it's so handy when you're smoothing out. So you really don't have to. You can go very rough and rustic with it, or you can do a lovely shape. So today I'm going to show you a different version that I quite like, because it's a little bit fanciful. So I'll put it on the Lazy Susan, and then I've got one of these, which anyone, this is an offset spatula, which is my most handy little tool to have for baking or for cooking. So we're going to use this little offset spatula just to put really at the bottom. Okay, I'll start here so you can see. So what I'm going to do is just lift it up into peaks like this, and then obviously just scrape it off and then come back and lift it like this. So you get these beautiful swirly little curves that are going in, and you just keep turning it around and around until you've done a full circle. And that just also creates a lovely voluminous texture, and it's a little bit poofed and a little bit fanciful, which is really what dessert is. Okay. Just round and round. And then
Diane, while you're speaking about decoration, There was a great question from Sarah, and she asked, would you say that food tastes better if it's plated creatively?
If it's plated creatively, whether it tastes better. It's hard to say. You know, we all eat like we know. We eat with our eyes first. So that's the first encounter that you have with what's going to be in front of you. But I think the most important thing is the integrity of the food on the plate. And that means, what does it really taste like? It can be lots of different foams. It can be fanciful. It can be beautifully decorated. But if the flavor lets you down, you know, that's the lasting memory on your palate. Is really, how did it taste? And I think the one works and the one supports the other. I think it also depends on the kind of occasion that you have. If you're just having a relaxed family dinner, or if you're having a really Italian style, it's just about good, honest food, and it's everybody help themselves. But there is something about beautifully plated food that makes you appreciate the art of food and how cleverly it's done. So there's room for all of that. But I think it can never taste any different other than how good that individual dish is, even if it's one or two components. So that's basically for me.
Thank you, Diane.
Okay, so there we go. So if you've got any other questions about the making of it, you can all see it's got lovely little ridges and scoops. So this goes into an oven. You heat it up to 150, so you get the oven nice and hot. And then the minute you put it in, you turn it down to 110. The higher you bake your pavlova at, the browner it becomes. And I think we've all seen that in a lot of these home industries. There's the very dark meringue. It's almost like a cappuccino color, and then you get these beautiful white ones. And the only difference is that the white is baked at a very low temperature, so it keeps that lovely snowy look. And if it's too hot, then it overbakes it quickly and it browns it. So I think for today's purpose, I think the white is really beautiful and clean. So turn it down to 110 and into your oven for about an hour and a half. And then what you should have is a beautiful crisp outside, and the inside should be pillowy and marshmallow and light. Okay, any other questions with the pav?
Not for the pav, so I think you can go ahead and pop that in the oven, and then I have 2 questions when you return.
Okay, perfect.
If you have any other questions, ladies, please feel free to send them through on the chat, and we will be sure to ask your questions to Diane so she doesn't miss any of your beautiful questions during the session.
I have put the link for the pavlova recipe in the column for everyone, and I will email it as well to you with the recordings. She makes it look so easy though. Let us know when you try and send us pics of what it looks like.
Pavlova is one of my absolute favorites, Lorna. So well done for choosing this particular recipe for us to feature today.
I think it goes so well with your product, but even more especially with the Krona. So it's delicious together. Hey.
Hashtag self-care all around in the best way.
100%. That was quick.
That was quick, Diane. Welcome back.
That's a great day. It's just in the oven.
So Diane, there's just 3 questions that I want to put to you before we move to the next section. Paul asks, how long did it take you to write your book?
Too long. It took me about 2 years to write the book. So I think it's longer than it takes for most, but it was a number of things that probably extended that period. So the first part was that I wanted to be reflective of the season. So you have to cook your way through the season. And I did that, trying to highlight what every season can offer in terms of fresh produce, and also the way we cook, the flavors that we cook in winter compared to summer, those kind of things. So it really evokes a sense of season when you cook like that throughout the year. So that was the one thing. And then for me, the journey was really about telling stories alongside the recipe so that it became really more personal, and it really does highlight how food is so integral and so part of our lives that it really does form a book almost. We can all tell stories about our food journeys and how we experience it. And then obviously testing the recipes just to make sure that everything worked. So most of the recipes in the book I cooked 6, 7, sometimes it needed 8. And if after 8 I didn't get it right, I knew no one's going to get it right, so then I'll just toss that one. But it really took a long time to make sure that everything worked beautifully, that there weren't going to be any fails. And then, you know, people lose heart when they're cooking and they're investing time and money and energy, and they're hopeful that this is going to taste delicious and do what it's supposed to do, and then it doesn't. So that was also a lot of research, so that I could also cook in terms of what was coming in food, what was trending in food, but not fashionable, because that goes out. So it's got to be really current, but still hold on to things that we understand in our particular lifestyle and the way that we eat. So then the styling and the photography and the stories, and because I was doing it all myself, it really did take a lot longer. But I feel comfortable and confident that it really will deliver those things that I hope for.
Oh, thank you, Diane. And then one more question, and the rest of the questions, everyone, don't stress. We will watch it. We will share your questions and get Diane to answer at the end of the session as well. What would you say is an ingredient you wouldn't live without, regardless of the price?
I'm going to try and think of something very exotic and difficult, but I'm going to have to be truthful and say Greek yogurt or double thick yogurt is my favorite thing. But ingredient-wise to cook, I would definitely say lemons are indispensable. They are, you know, they're not difficult to come by. Everybody has them, and they add brightness to your food, and they balance flavors in your food, and they lift flavors in your food, whether it's savory or sweet. So they must be the most used ingredient, besides the obvious like olive oils and all of that, but lemons I couldn't cook without.
Thanks, Diane. And final question. Yegus and Atisha actually asked a similar question. And Atisha asked, where did you get the Middle Eastern inspiration for your, or flair for your meals and recipes? It really stood out for me with each colorful page of your book, and she can't wait to get started. And Yegus asked, will you be indulging any Persian food inspired recipes in the future, perhaps in another book?
Let me think. The Middle Eastern thing probably started when I went to work on a kibbutz in Israel, which I think I was 21. And I'd never traveled anywhere before. So Israel was my first real exposure to a different world. And I remember very clearly going up to the dining room the first morning that we'd arrived there, and they had cucumber and yogurt and pita bread. I thought, is this really the breakfast menu? Because obviously we're looking for granola and those things that we understand. And the street food, when we left the kibbutz, the street food in Jerusalem was just amazing. We ate once a day because we only had 1 shekel, and so we bought a pita bread stuffed with hummus and chickpeas and fresh salad. And I think that's where it just resonated with me. You know, all of their food it's bold, it's bright, it's vibrant, it's colorful. It's really based on seasonality, but it has so much character and personality, and I really love that. And it gets such a beautiful reaction when you hand these platters of food. It's abundant food, it's casual, it's honest, it's not pretentious food. And as much as I try and go this way, I always end up going this way, and it's back to the Middle East. And so I have a massive, massive love and appreciation for their food. And yes, I definitely would love to. I'm thinking about a second book, and it will definitely always have Middle Eastern and those beautiful Persian flavors.
That's lovely. Thank you, Diane.
Pleasure.
Okay, so the rest of the questions we'll get to a little bit later on in the session. And now shall we provide a link between the beautiful pavlova and our luxurious creme de la mer? You think it's time to move to la mer?
Most certainly.
Perfect.
Certainly. It is.
Perfect. So as I share my screen and get ready to share our beautiful creme de la mer, let me get set, and I will now be on speaker view so you can see my face on your screen so that you can hear all about this beautiful brand. So we had numerous discussions about the perfect partner to the creme. And Lorna came up with the idea of doing the pavlova with Diane, and we thought, what a beautiful synergy. The pillowiness, the luxuriousness of a beautiful pavlova, and just the sheer indulgence of it makes us think of luxury. And what better way to combine the two brands and showcase the pavlova and now our beautiful creme de la mer. Now, amazingly, what I've learned in my time on La Mer, and it's so nice to see such familiar faces on this call, and a lot of you know me from Estee Lauder. And just at the beginning of this year, I was given the incredible opportunity of taking over the La Mer brand here in South Africa. And let me tell you, I've always considered myself an Estee Lauder girl. And now I have added this incredible, luxurious brand to my portfolio of must-haves. It is just sheer luxury. And from the moment you envelope your skin in the beautiful, iconic creme de la mer, you feel the change and the smoothness and the indulgence on your skin. Now I've put on the screen the textures of our creme. And what I'd like to share with you is that the texture of the egg whites, as Diane was whisking into soft peaks, is actually the perfect texture of our creme de la mer the moment it is mixed and formulated. Now, the creme is actually kept at the ideal temperature in order to mix it and make sure that all of the miracle broth and the beautiful nutrients and vitamins that are added to the creme are kept in its perfect form. And what happens to the creme is that as it is ready, as the formula is finished and ready for production, the creme has to be bottled in that beautiful hand-painted jar within 8 hours of it being made, in order to make sure that the formula is at its peak efficacy and that you get the perfect formulation each and every time. So the creme actually is formulated using liquid crystal technology. And what that means is that the miracle broth, which is at the cornerstone of the formula, is kept absolutely safe and secure in this liquid crystal technology and enters the creme. Now, when you buy your bottle of creme, you'll see that it has a very thick consistency. And this is why the La Mer cream is warmed in your hands before you apply it on the face. And this disperses all that precious miracle broth to the skin. Now I'm getting ahead of myself because I get so excited with all of this information. But to start off the La Mer experience, I would love to immerse you in this gorgeous brand and take you to the Mediterranean. So let's watch this together. So born from the sea, La Mer is the global leader in luxury skincare and delivers profound healing to the skin. I can't think of a product that's more suited to the time that we're in right now. You know, dealing with the stresses that we find ourselves right now, working tirelessly in front of a screen, and just trying to be okay, has plunged us into the search for healing and self-care, whether it's emotional, spiritual, or healing for your skin. And this is what Creme de la Mer promises. Now, a question from, I think it was, let me look. From one of you, and it was an anonymous question, is Dr. Max Huber still part of the La Mer research team? Actually not. So Dr. Max Huber started the La Mer brand in 1965, and his search for healing began when he actually had an explosion in his lab. He was an aerospace physicist. And whilst toiling away in his lab and doing his experiments, there was an explosion and his face was badly burnt in the explosion. Now, using all of his knowledge of science and all of his tools in his laboratory, he went on a journey to search for the perfect solution to his incredible problem, and that was to heal his skin. It took him 12 years and 6,000 experiments. And in 1965, Creme de la Mer was born. Dr. Max Huber always had an obsession with the sea and everything that emerged from the sea. So he decided to feature and to focus his attention on what the sea could offer him. And that's where he discovered the sea kelp. And what's incredible about the story is Max Huber was an absolutely eccentric fellow. And he created his creme, and he went out and he got numerous amounts of people to try it after he had used it on himself. And the transition and the healing that it delivered to his skin, he just had to share with everyone. And during those early days when he was getting his formula out to anyone who would listen, there's a funny story of Max Huber opening up creme, plunging a teaspoon into it and actually eating it. And he'd say to people, this is as good for your body as it is for your skin. It's so good, in fact, that you could eat it. So he was a very eccentric man. He's not a part of the brand right now because he actually passed away in 1991. And 4 years later, Estee Lauder Companies purchased the brand from Dr. Max Huber's daughter. Estee Lauder Companies had their eye on Creme de la Mer for years and years and years before they actually laid their hands on it. And it was because of the talk, because of the reputation that Creme de la Mer had in delivering incredible results for the skin, that Estee Lauder was so interested in acquiring this brand. Now, please share your questions in the chat if you have any, and I'll be happy to answer them as I move through the presentation. Now, at the cornerstone of this formula is obviously the giant sea kelp, and it is still sourced off the coast of Vancouver Island, and we ensure that it is sustainably sourced and that none of the oceans are harmed during the sourcing of these ingredients. And I'll share with you a little bit later on what La Mer does in order to give back to the oceans. Now, the giant sea kelp is the main ingredient in the formula. And I'd like to share just a little clip now on the journey that the giant sea kelp goes through before it reaches your creme de la mer.
In the cool, pristine waters off the coast of Vancouver Island, La Mer harvests sea kelp. This amazing plant, also known as giant kelp, is the largest marine plant known and can grow up to 2 feet in a day. It is so rich in nutrients and essential minerals, it actually supports an ecosystem by providing food and shelter to marine species. La Mer goes to great lengths to ensure the kelp is harvested responsibly and sustainably. Each frond is carefully harvested by hand, and we collect only those that reach the water surface. Once harvested, the kelp is immediately put on ice to preserve its freshness, then combined with other natural ingredients where it undergoes a unique and proprietary biofermentation process. We use energy in the form of light and sound waves to transform the ingredients into a broth. We call this the miracle broth, and it is legendary for its skin rejuvenating properties. The miracle broth, source of La Mer's profound powers of transformation, lies at the heart of every La Mer product.
It truly is the most wonderful journey that the miracle broth, the sea kelp, and all of the ingredients goes through to get ultimately into our creme de la mer. Now, the miracle broth, as you heard in the video, is the core ingredient in every product on the La Mer menu. And it is featured in different ratios. It's featured in different technologies and carriers in each of the products. And I'll share more about that with you shortly. Now, a few of the products I've chosen to feature today based on the questions that we received. And Lorna, please feel free if there are any questions in the chat to stop me and ask as I move through to introduce you to some of the La Mer products. So before I start, are there any pressing questions that I need to get to?
Yes, there are. There's 3 really interesting questions. If I can move on to those, Lee.
Yes, absolutely, Lorna.
We know that you took over, or Estee Lauder bought out La Mer in 1994, but does it stand alone, or is it part of your portfolio of offerings, or do you try and keep it as a very prestige standalone product?
Definitely firmly under the umbrella of Estee Lauder companies. However, it is La Mer has its entire team based in Paris, and it is standalone division in Estee Lauder companies. So certainly harnessing the heritage of the brand and paying homage to the work that Dr. Max Huber did and keeping it very pure and purely creme de la mer. Absolutely.
Perfect. As concentrate, is that another word for cream?
No, well, concentrate is a whole other product on the La Mer offering, and I am going to share that with you shortly. So I'll go through the benefits of that.
And I'm sure you're going to go into where it can be bought. There's a little bit of discussion regarding stores that where it can be found. So we'll go into that later.
Thank you, Lorna. So I thought long and hard about the products that I would feature to you today. And I thought, let me start with the products that I've personally used, as well as what we call our fundamentals at La Mer, which is the heroes, if you will. And I'm glad a lot of you asked questions relating to these products. I'm sure it's going to answer your questions as we move on. And what I'll start with is our beautiful, iconic creme in this gorgeous hand-painted jar. And as I shared with you earlier, bottled within 8 hours of its production so that it gets to you with the utmost efficacy. So this product, very close to the texture of the meringue that Diane so beautifully created. And I'm going to take a bit out of my jar with my beautiful La Mer spatula. And I'm going to put some on the back of my hand. Now, the reason why I'm putting it on the back of my hand is because I want you to see the texture transform as I warm the product. So remember I mentioned that your creme de la mer, and I've put on quite a bit so that you can see the change in the texture as I warm it on my skin. Now, it takes a few moments to do this, and you'll see that ever so slightly, the texture starts to melt into my skin. And because I am blessed with this gorgeous tester, I can indulge in putting this much on. Now you'll see that it's changing from that white meringue texture and color, and it's almost melting into my skin. And what this does, and I wish you had smell-o-vision, because this smells absolutely beautiful. Now, the creme is made up of liquid crystal technology, and the liquid crystal technology holds the miracle broth in its most incredible form, so that when you massage this into your skin, it actually bursts the little liquid crystals and releases that miracle broth directly into your skin. Now you see, everyone, that slowly it's melting into my skin as it warms to my body temperature. Now, what I want you to notice is immediately, I'm going to put both hands up to the screen.
Can you enlarge the
see that?
screen for it?
Hey,
Are you able to enlarge yourself just for us to see it?
now if you put me on speaker view, I have spotlighted myself, Lorna. Oh, so you can put me on speaker view and you will be able to see my hands. Now, this is the hand that has received the treatment. What I can do is actually, let me stop sharing because this is too good not to see, everyone.
It's good, yes.
So this is the beautiful La Mer. Now I want you to see, can you see how radiant that is? Now, when you take this creme home, and as Lorna asked, where can you get it? We are stocked in most Woolworths stores that have the flagship Woolworths stores. So each of them would have a La Mer counter. And you can still find us at our Edgar's flagship stores. And what we'll do for you following the session is we will get our experts to possibly just send you a WhatsApp or an email and invite you in for a personalized consultation. So that beautiful creme has absorbed straight into my skin. Now, a lot of people ask, you know, what if my skin is a combination? What if my skin is oily? Well, did you know that the La Mer Iconic Creme actually is available in 5 different formulations, specifically suited to all skin types. So we have a matte lotion for a very oily skin. We have a soft cream if you're like me, and a normal combination. And of course, we have the bestseller, which is the Iconic Creme. And that is super luxurious and super indulgent. Now, I just want to show you, even though I applied quite a bit to my skin, there is no residue and it is completely absorbed into my skin. Now, when you use it at home, you'd apply it to your hands and you'd rub it until the white texture melts into your skin and becomes translucent. And then you would literally press it into the skin and your neck. So beautiful texture. And I have to say, everyone, I used my La Mer products this morning because I wanted to get ready for you. And I have a very sheer foundation on, and you can see that it really, really gives you the smoothest, brightest, most radiant texture. Now, I see in the chat box, Mpos asked, can this product be used for eczema-prone skin? Absolutely, yes, it has to be. So the whole concept of Creme de la Mer is healing, and healing moisture in particular. So creme is absolutely going to soothe and moisturize and hydrate an eczema-prone skin, a very dry skin, a deeply sensitive skin, and it's going to give you the most beautiful, absolutely calm, radiant, and smooth skin. Is it good for menopausal skin? Absolutely, Rennie. You would use whichever texture you feel is best for you at this particular time, and you would use it morning and night, but absolutely it would soothe, calm, and nourish your skin, especially with the hormonal changes that are happening. Now that's our Iconic Creme for everyone, and available in 5 different formulations so that we can tailor make it to your specific need. Now, one of the questions was, what would you suggest for a stressed skin? A stressed skin that's marked by weight loss and weight gain, or just a stressed skin in particular? And this is where that concentrate comes in, Lorna, the one that you asked about earlier. Now, the concentrate has been formulated with triple the amount of miracle broth, and it is infused with beautiful, soothing, calming ingredients that are going to do just that. It's going to help stabilize and rebuild a very stressed skin. Now, the moment you open this concentrate, you begin to smell the gorgeous, gorgeous ingredients that are in the formula. and it's very sheer. If you look at it, it's almost a translucent serum, and you'd massage it into your skin morning and evening. And from the moment you put it on, immediately I feel a cooling sensation on my skin. And can you imagine, for a very, irritated, stressed skin, and I'm poor, for an eczema skin, this would be amazing as well. And touching my skin, it is so soft and smooth. So the beautiful thing that I love about the concentrate is you do not have to use it all the time. For those periods of stressful situations, if you're recovering from an illness, if you're going through something that has affected your skin, the concentrate is definitely something that you can add to your skincare regime just for a little while to see your skin through. And you'd use it morning and night on a very clean skin and follow with the rest of your skincare. So I wanted to also just share with you that morning and night, you would use your concentrate on it to help you through those stressful periods, follow with your moisturizer. And one of the questions I had was, is La Mer only for scarred skin? Is it only for a stressed skin? And is it only for eczema prone skin? No, it is for all skins that are needing that healing moisture, that are needing that special touch. And what's great about the La Mer creams is that from the moment you use the products, you see the difference, you see the results, and you feel the smoothness in your skin. Now, I'm sure a lot of you indulged in those beautiful samples that we sent you. I'd love to know how you felt about it, so please share in the chat. But definitely, I made sure I gave you a sample of the concentrate. And I made sure I gave you something that I love to use, which is our creme, but for the neck and décolletage. Now, that is the ultimate for me, because you see an improvement in your skin on the shoulders, on the neck. And of course, if you're like me, you're extending your face all the way down to include the breast area. So I hope you are enjoying your samples. And to finish up, I wanted to mention this product, which is our eye concentrate. Now, the eye concentrate is something that is incredible. It is helping your eye area to reduce dark circles in just 3 weeks. And it's something that's really intensely nourishing and hydrating and healing the area that is so fragile, and that is the eye area. And when you visit our counter, when you visit one of our La Mer experts, please be sure to ask them to show you the special technique that we use to apply the eye concentrates around the eye area. Now, I'm just gonna, Lorna, are there any other questions in the chat before I move
May I
on?
jump in?
Yes, absolutely.
You did answer it, but Impor asked, would you use this like a tissue oil instead?
So in particular for a scar,
yes,
yeah, you would apply your creme. You can apply it directly to the scar, or you can use it as your skincare. So completely up to you. Yes, you absolutely can apply it and use it on a scar.
and Lee, if you went to a counter, a consultant would help you complement between Lauder and La Mer. If you wanted to use both products, you would be
yes
able to.
Absolutely. I mean, so many brands to choose from, everyone promising amazing results, and it really is up to you to find little key products that will fit into your routine and complement the rest of the routine that you already have. So yes, Lorna, our experts will work together with our beauty advisors on Estee Lauder and find those key products that will speak directly to the concerns that you have. So if you're particularly going through a stressful time, you just want to add one product, you can absolutely use your concentrate together with any of your other Estee Lauder products. Now, one of the questions as well was, is La Mer anti-aging? Absolutely it is. It is going to improve the overall look and feel of your skin. It's going to improve the barrier of your skin, so helping your skin to withstand environmental damage better. And if you are looking for particular lifting and firming, we do have regenerating serums, lifting, contouring serums that we can add to your skincare regime that will give you that particular anti-aging benefit.
Oh, beautiful. We know, obviously, what I know, the La Mer for all the scars, but how do scars differ from pigmentation? Would La Mer be suitable for a pigment, a skin with bad dark spots and pigmentation?
Absolutely. We have just launched actually a brand new range called Blanc de la Mer, and this is targeted at fighting pigmentation. So we will have it on our counters, if not right now, very soon. And this is a range of products featuring the Miracle Broth and the iconic creme, and targeting the treatment of pigmentation. So please take advantage of our invite to visit any of our La Mer counters, chat to our experts, and get your personalized skincare consultation with them. And ask for a demo. Let them demo any of the products with you so that you learn as well more about the techniques for applying these incredible products.
We know also you've got the beautiful hand-painted jars. The serum, when it's a large or the regular size, is that in a bottle? Glass? Does that come in a glass bottle or?
The normal serums, Lorna, like the concentrate, the regenerating serum? Absolutely, all glass. La Mer is very big on sustainability, recycling. So all our products are in the glass or the ceramics.
Thank you.
Absolutely. Right. So yes, you can absolutely use your La Mer products with your Estee Lauder, Rini. I think I've answered all of the questions. I'm just looking. What is better to use, an eye cream or an eye gel? Completely up to your preference. If you have a little bit of a drier eye area, I always say that a cream is more indulgent and more nourishing than a gel. If you're like me and you like something very light, quickly absorbing, I prefer to use a gel as opposed to a cream. Right, so one of the questions as well from you was, what does La Mer do to take care of the oceans and to give back to the oceans? And I want to share now a beautiful video, and I'm just going to get to it with you, that shows you exactly what we do for the ocean. So the special project that La Mer is devoted to globally is called the La Mer Blue Heart Project. And what this is it's our way of giving back to the oceans and making sure that the oceans are here for generations to come. So let's have a look now at the video, and I'll explain a little bit more just now.
My grandfather, Jacques Cousteau, was a pioneer of ocean exploration, filmmaking, and conservation. Once said that the sea, once it casts its spell, holds you in its net of wonder forever. I'm part of 3 generations of a family that has dedicated their lives to exploring and protecting the oceans. As the next generation, we're being equipped with the knowledge and the tools to build a thriving, hopeful water planet. I was diving with Ella, who was 11 years old, and this is the first time she's ever been diving. Fiji is one of the most spectacular places on Earth. To experience the coral reefs here that are still thriving, seeing people's eyes light up when they get to see sea turtles and sharks for the first time, and the swirling colors of fish dancing amongst the coral is inspiring.
That's amazing.
And that's what La Mer Blue Heart is all about. It's about hope and opportunity.
So that is a brief introduction into the La Mer Blue Heart Project, which really is us giving back to the oceans and making sure that they are kept in good condition for generations to come. Now, in the next few weeks, you will see this product on our counters. It is the limited edition La Mer Blue Heart Moisturizing Creme. And what this is it's a beautiful hand-painted jar again, inspired by the oceans, and it will come in a 60 ml variety. And when you purchase this product, a portion of the proceeds goes to our La Mer Blue Heart project. Each year we have this special offer, and a portion of the proceeds goes to our La Mer Blue Heart project. And in doing so, we are able to invest globally in the Blue Heart project, helping to take care of our oceans and making sure that we preserve it for generations to come. So if you are at a La Mer counter in June, make sure to have a look for the La Mer Blue Heart limited edition creme. And if you do purchase it, please be assured that a portion of these proceeds will go to an amazing cause, and you will be giving back to the global oceans from La Mer. So this is me sharing the La Mer brand with you, and it's such a short time, so we can only share so much. But please, if you can, visit a Woolworths counter or an Edgar's counter and spend some time with our experts. Share that you've attended this event with me, and just experience the brand in all of its indulgence and its luxury. And we will obviously be contacting you just to invite you in as well, if you forget our invitation, to get you to a counter to experience this for yourself. Now, I wanted to end, and I haven't ignored this question. This question came from Marion. And Marion asked, would a less expensive product do the same thing in treating your skin and helping, with getting your skin to a good condition? And another question was, why is La Mer as expensive as it is? Well, no expense is spared in sourcing the best sea kelp for our cremes. The miracle broth, the recipe for the miracle broth, is still the same recipe that Dr. Max Huber started in 1965. And Estee Lauder has curated this beautiful brand and harnessed everything that's made it what it is today. So from the moment you put the creme or any of the products on your skin, I assure you, you will see and feel the investment that you've made in this brand. All we've done on the La Mer brand is advocated through word of mouth. And we have heaps and heaps of people that are willing to share their testimonies on the amazing results that they've received from stressed skin, eczema-prone skin, scarred skin. And I think the testimonies speak for itself. So definitely worth the investment if this is where you would like to put your efforts and investment in your skin. So I hope that answered all of your questions. I hope you've enjoyed this little introduction into the La Mer brand. And I urge you to take advantage of our open invitation to visit one of our Woolworths or Edgar's counters and see the brand in all of its indulgence and luxury on counter with our experts. Thank you, Lorna. Any other questions?
Well, obviously, Estee Lauder will be able to contact all you beautiful ladies and guide you to the right counters. There is a lady who joined up with somebody on an invite, I think. If she goes to a counter, would somebody be able to share a sample with her while she was having a consultation? Is that something that La Mer would do?
Absolutely, Lorna, absolutely. So if you visit any of the stores, and we don't always have samples readily available, especially now during this period, but please visit the counter, let her know that you have attended the event with me. And if she doesn't have a particular sample, I'm happy to source it. Please let the expert get in touch with me, and I'm happy to source a sample for you and send it directly to you.
Oh, wonderful. Well, I think we'll just keep the conversations going with everybody as everything pans through. Last question we've got from Angelique, and I know that there are a number of La Mer fans on board. Angelique's been using La Mer for many years, and should she change to another Lauder product for a while and go back? Is it healthy for your skin to get a bit of a change?
Brilliant question, Angelique. And, I've been using my product for 21 years, my Estee Lauder product. And I always find when I feel my skin is looking a bit, not as great as it usually does, a little bit of a tweak, possibly the addition of a new serum, a mask, a targeted treatment usually brings my skin back to the radiance and the clarity that I want to see in it. So always good to sit down with a beauty advisor or an expert and share how you're feeling about your skin, but no drastic change needed. Often just a little tweak, just to anticipate the changes in your hormones, in the different environments that your skin lives in, and that usually sorts it out. So just adding maybe a serum, a mask, or a little treatment extra in addition to your moisturizer, or tweaking the formulation of your moisturizer will give you a huge boost in how your skin looks and feels. So I hope that helps, but please take advantage of our beauty advisors and our experts on counter. They will work with you and create the best routine for you.
Thank you.
So are we ready to go back to Diane? I'm going to spotlight Diane so that she is front and center on our screen. There you go.
We're ready to go. Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so we have our pavlova still baking, and I had made several beforehand, so we could just do the decorations. But that's all of the ultimate of a dessert is the decorations, the little finer details. So to keep in sort of in sync with the whole Persian pavlova, I've got some freshly whipped cream here, very light and pillowy as well. Everything here is about the lightness and the contrast of crunchy meringue and the soft, gentle creaminess of the whipped cream. And then obviously you have to have something that counterbalances all of that. So fresh fruit is always beautiful, always go with something that's in season. And then we're going to use some Turkish delight, which obviously is very Middle Eastern. So for the flavorings here, you could choose whichever you like. Some people are very averse to rose water, and I think you've got to be very careful that you don't overdo it. So there's a difference between a rose extract and a rose water. The rose water is a little bit gentler and a little bit sort of diluted, if I can say. And the extract obviously is a lot stronger. So you've got to be very careful and make sure you're reading the label correctly, because if you put too much of the rose water or extract, it's going to taste like your granny's potpourri, which is where you don't want to go. So you can always add a little bit more, taste as you go. That's the thing with food, is that it's not always prescriptive. It's really dependent on what you love. So I'm going to put some rose water in with the whipped cream and a little bit of vanilla extract as well. And then we're going to add some of this double thick yogurt, which I absolutely love. So the yogurt is really, really good with this pavlova, and because cream can be very rich, it's wonderful in itself, but for that little bit of a tanginess, and which is also a lovely contrast to the sweetness of the Turkish delight, I add the beet yogurt, and that just gives it a little bit of a lighter flavor, not so rich, but it's very much a personal thing. Like I said before, personal, and you really need to choose it until you're happy with the flavor. So keep dipping in, tasting, and adjust as you go. So this is the kind of, just a lovely, soft, gentle texture. You don't want to be able to build houses with it. It's got to be pillowy and soft. Right. So we're going to take one of our cooked meringues. So I'm going to choose this one. And what you will see with the meringue, with most pavlovas or meringues, you're going to get some cracks. So that's characteristic of it. So you don't need to fuss too much about it. And if it does happen, you always have the whipped cream to cover up any indiscretions or little cracks that you might not want to show. But it's really not serious. It's a kind of a casual, homely dessert. So we're all expecting it to be approachable. I'm just going to look around for a spoon here quickly. Oh, I'll just use this one here. Never mind. Let's do this. So I'm going to do it this way so you can have a look. So just pile it onto the top. And now when you cut it, you're obviously going to expect it to sink a little bit and crunch. And And then you can just swirl it gently and just encourage it a little bit over the sides. Just tease it over. So I can't see too much what I'm doing on that side. Add a little bit more cream. And then what's lovely here too is if you have fruit coulis, which is really just blended fruit, and you can add a little bit of icing sugar just to macerate it and get those juices flowing. You can also do with the lovely creme de cassis, with a liqueur, whichever you love. And then obviously the fresh fruit. So I think in keeping with our beautiful colors, I think everything here mimics the creme de la mer so beautifully. Soft and gentle, luxurious. Just pile these on top. Lorna, have you got any other questions that you'd like me to get to while I'm doing this?
Everyone's just commenting on how gorgeous that meringue looks, Diane.
Well, when you were saying that you thought that it would be lovely if we had
Television.
a way to smell, and I'm really so sorry there's no way that you can taste what I'm going to be tasting later. So you'll definitely have to make one for yourselves. And what I wanted to mention as well about the meringue and where we are at this place and time in our lives is that you don't have to make a big massive meringue or pavlova. And normally everything always feeds 6 to 8 or 12 people. So with this, the ratio that I mentioned before of 1 egg white to a quarter cup of caster sugar, you really can make little mini ones just that'll serve 2 people, and it's beautiful. I mean, you can still celebrate all the wonderfulness of what food can do and how you can have a dining out experience at home. So the ratios are so easily adaptable. And if you really want, you can make a couple and then you could just send it over to some neighbors who would really love it.
Well, Diane, you have to do 30 samples because the question is, why didn't a sample come in the hamper? So
That's an excellent question. Lorna will have to do another one and we'll do a repeat on this thing.
a little box coming, hey?
A little surprise. Okay, I'm going to dust it with just a little bit of powdered sugar, just to mimic the lovely whites. And then we're going to finish it off with these beautiful little nuggets of Turkish delight, which makes it particularly Middle Eastern and rather fabulous. You can also finish it with some rose petals if you like. And I think with a pavlova, the most wonderful thing about a pavlova is that it is not given a particular season. You can eat it any time of year. Obviously, it is a very summery thing in Australia, but you can use any seasonal fruit. So if you were going into autumn now, pears, beautifully poached pears like saffron pears are beautiful, red wine pears are beautiful too. So I just think look at the fruits that is in season, and fresh figs, if you roast them in the oven with a little bit of red wine and some cardamom and cinnamon and you drizzle the syrup over, absolutely beautiful for a late autumn lunch in the garden. Okay, I think and that is it. And you can obviously put on a couple of little rose petals if you like as well, but that really is more than sufficient.
Was it?
Any other questions about the PAV or about the book? I'm happy to dive in.
It's beautiful. Oh, good. Lee?
There was one question that was sent through earlier on, Diane, and it's on the book. And Ricky just mentions that she's seen the beautiful oxtail recipe in the book, and she's just wondering if you can give her a little tip on how to thicken her sauce, because usually she follows recipes to the T, but she feels that her sauce is not as thick as she'd want it to be. So any advice on how to thicken a sauce for lamb shank or an oxtail stew?
Okay. I think the method that you cook your oxtail is very pertinent to how thick your sauce will be as well. So if you're going to do it in a slow cooker or you're going to do it in maybe an instant pot, that kind of scenario, you have to reduce the amount of liquid that you're putting in. And then if you do have excessive amount of liquid, either from using a lot of wine or too much stock, or maybe even if you're putting your tomatoes and it's a very watery tomato, chopped tomatoes, chopped tomatoes often have a very high water content. Then you need to just increase your heat at the end. So what I do, if I find that my liquid is too much and it's not clinging to the meat as you want it to, I would even remove the meat with a slotted spoon, set it aside, and then I put it on the hob over a really high heat, and you just reduce that sauce down. And when you do that, by reducing that liquid, you actually intensify all the flavors that are already there. So you'll have a far more intense, luxurious, velvety sauce that will stick to your meat. And I think you'll also get that consistency that you're looking for. Very rarely would I say, do you need to thicken it with corn flour, with the slurry, but you can do that too if you're a little bit concerned you're not managing. Otherwise, maybe just reduce the amount of stock that you add to your oxtail. But there is a beautiful red wine oxtail recipe on the blog, on the website, so you're more than happy to jump over there and have a look at it. But I think those are mainly the secret things to look for, is just to make sure that you don't have too much red wine, or if you are going to put it in, then just make sure you deglaze it, the oxtail on the top of the hob, and then reduce it by half before you add in your tomato and your other flavorings and pop it in the oven.
Brilliant. I hope that answered your question, Ricky. And Diane, everyone is commenting at how stunning that pavlova looks. And Mpumi actually said, my mouth is watering, Diane.
I'm so happy to donate this to anyone who wants to come and fetch it.
Who's close to Diane? Oh, wonderful.
So you're more than welcome. It is rather problematic to courier pavlova. Of all the things, I think it is quite, but it's really so simple. So I would love you all to make it this weekend. The recipe is really very simple. If you just follow those very tiny little tips and tricks of how to ensure that it's going to work and be beautiful and pillowy and crispy on the outside.
Wonderful. Well, everyone's got the recipe, and really we encourage you, when you do bake it, please send me a WhatsApp or an email and I'll share with everyone, because let's see if ours looks as beautiful as Diane's. I'm sure the ingredients, it's all just tastes delicious. But moving to our third and final beautiful host is someone who's tried all those recipes. So Paula will be able to give you some tips on her favorite recipes as well. But over to you, Paula, just to share something about the Krone, which I hope most of you popped the cork before we started, unless you're savoring for a little bit later. So thank you, Paula.
Thank you, Lorna, and thank you, Lee, and Diane. What a fantastic afternoon. And as Lorna said, my mum and I worked our way through the book over the course of 2020. And it was definitely the reason we had to step up the steps and go back to gym when I came back to Johannesburg. But the recipes are just incredible. They're beautiful to follow. And the Instagram page, if you are not following Diane, I really suggest you do. You will be hungry constantly and you will want to bake every weekend, particularly on a Sunday. Diane shares always a beautiful cake, which often my mum and I sort of independently will have baked and then share a picture. And like she says, are you stalking me? But no, we're stalking you, Diane. Thank you for your time. And I think what's so lovely about Bubbly, when we talk about food and desserts, and of course, just self-care, like Lee said earlier, is that it's very hard to be sad when you're drinking a glass of Bubbly. And Krone for me has been a synonymous brand in the wine industry for many years. It was one of the founding members of the Cup Classique Association in South Africa, and they've been making sparkling wine, or MCC, or Cup Classique as it is now called. We've dropped the M or the method at the beginning of this year. And it's from a farm in the Tulbach area, and it's family owned. Many of you may not know that. It is a big brand, and it's in many outlets and most of the retail spaces, but it actually is a family owned farm. The Rands family own it, and Abby and Sven, a brother and sister team, have taken the project from 2012 when they bought it and really just nurtured this beautiful farm. I was looking at Diane's proteas behind her, and I was lucky enough to be at the farm just before we went into lockdown actually last year. And there's just incredible proteas planted throughout the vineyards. And as you walk through, you could literally just pick those beautiful proteas like you have behind you. And I think Abby comes from a fashion background, and she's just taken her sense of style and creativity and put it into buildings. There's a beautiful art gallery on the farm. And I'm sure some of you have seen the changes in the packaging. And interestingly, just to bring it back to Le Meur, which I didn't really know until, Lorna and I discussed Le Meur a bit earlier, was that the sea plays a very prominent role in the taste of the Corona as well. Often when people open or put their noses in the glass for the first time, they'll tell you it sort of smells a little bit like a seashell. Which is a really beautiful smell, which you get on MCC. And often the rosé is considered sort of that seashell color as well. So I suppose the sea comes round full circle. And for those of you that live at the beach, I'm very jealous. I think Diane will attest, we all miss the sea. And I think many of you that I know on the call, I used to know from, the Beverly Hills, and we would stand there overlooking the sea. And I really did take it for granted. The Corona Borealis is the reason it's got its name is because Corona picks their grapes at night, so under the stars. So we always say we've captured the stars, and I suppose bubbles and stars, and the constellation obviously being Borealis. And Corona, the name, somebody asked the question about how Corona got its name. It got its name because of the Corona family that owned it before Abby and Sven took over in 2012. And Corona obviously meaning crown in Dutch, I think. Yes, Dutch. And Corona, the god of wine, obviously being sort of standing over and blessing the harvest. So many history, lots of history. And Stefan de Beer, who heads up the winemaking team at Corona under the guidance of Rudiger Grengel, many of you might know him. They're making some incredible wine, but also trying to be as sustainable as possible. So hence the reason they planted some proteas and introduced, the original bush and back into the vines. And it's quite interesting to see how the family has taken and embraced this very beautiful 300-year-old property in Tulbach. The property is known as Twee Jong Gesellen. So often on the back, people ask that question, well, what is it? The brand is Corona, and Twee Jong Gesellen is the farm. And for the first time in probably 25 years, they've released a red wine. It's actually being launched tomorrow, and it's a Grenache Noir. So for any of you that are real wine lovers, please feel free to get hold of me, and I will make sure that I can get you some of those bottles to enjoy. I know there are some wine, I'd like to use the word nerds around this. I think one of the other things that people always ask me about Bubbly and Corona particularly is that they make the Brut and the Borealis, which is what you've got, but they also make two products, the Night Nectar and the Night Nectar Rosé. And people often get quite confused about this. The fact is, as South Africans, and I think globally, most of us like sweet things. I think we can all attest to looking at that pavlova and sort of licking our lips. And sometimes sweet things are more of our preference. And because of that, the Corona brand introduced two sweeter MCCs. And they've been incredibly popular. And for me, it's been a privilege to watch the brand grow, because people who may have been scared of the grape before have been introduced through the Night Nectars. And it's really been fantastic to watch how people grow and their wine journey grows with the brand. And last year, we also introduced a Blanc de Blanc, so just an extra added advantage. And like Bibby said, You can make pavlova for 2 or 4 people, and Corona also has understood this. So there's a 375 ml bottle, as well as magnums for those of you that will be celebrating parties with family and friends. So thank you very much for the opportunity to share and spend the day or the afternoon with you. But I look forward to any other questions. I think Lee might have a quick couple for me off the chat, and I hope that I can answer them sufficiently.
Brilliant. Thank you, Paula. So some of the questions that did come through from the ladies was, firstly, what grapes are used in the making of the Corona Brut?
So Chardonnay and Pinot Noir, mostly all MCCs in South Africa are those two wines, but Chardonnay and Pinot Noir grow very well in the Tulbagh area. We pick them quite early before it gets very hot. So it's a blend of those two grapes.
Brilliant. And Pumi asks, how long can I store my Corona Brut for before it spoils, if it does at all?
So I think with vintage wine, you always get the opportunity to see exactly how old it is. Many MCCs in South Africa are non-vintage, so you wouldn't be able to know how old they actually are. With Corona, I have been fortunate enough to drink wines that are 20 years old. We would suggest drinking it a bit sooner. Obviously, we have put it into the bottle right now, and we believe that it is at optimal tasting right at the moment, but it can be kept. I just would suggest that it's stored at an even temperature and lying down or upright. I tend to prefer lying them down. Having said that, in the right conditions, if it's not too hot and not too cold, I think standing up, if that's what you've got, is also fine. It's just about making sure the temperature doesn't fluctuate too much.
Thanks, Paula. And everyone is just sharing how lovely that story is that you shared. And Marion put something so beautiful in the chat. She said, to have a champagne that is as lovely as an angel's breath. Thank you so much. How beautiful is that? And everyone just loves the story of the night nectar and all of that. Really, really beautiful storytelling. There was a question that asked, what temperature should you serve Cap Classique at?
Cold, as cold as you can get. I think we live in a very hot country, and I mean, we always talk in wine about 13 to 15 degrees, and people say room temperature for red wine. The fact of the matter is our temperatures are so high. I think any of you that were around in Johannesburg last week, we got to 34 and 35 degrees. Even a very cold bottle of wine, as soon as you take it out of the fridge, your temperature is going to increase 5, 6, 7 degrees. And as you start pouring it, it's going to get warmer. So ultimately, if you're drinking vintage champagne or vintage MCC, obviously then we're a little bit more fussy about the temperature. But ultimately in South Africa, as cold as you can get, because as it warms up, you're going to change those flavor profiles. So for me, particularly in the summer months, put it under ice. That makes it best. And it's always going to give you an opportunity.
Speaking our language, Paula, I can't wait to have a glass of bubbly this evening. One of the questions that came through is, what is your opinion on flute versus tulip glasses drinking bubbles?
So we debate this heavily, and I have come to the conclusion after much debate and many bottles of bubbly sort of shared and checking the glasses, which is very fortunate that it's part of my job and I can justify that. I think there's a preference. I think everyone has a personal preference. For me, it depends on the bubbly and it depends on the occasion. So for me, standing at a wedding and having a glass of bubbly, I don't want it in a wine glass, even a tulip glass, maybe not, doesn't fit the occasion. I want it in a tall flute. But ultimately for tasting bubbly, I think a tulip is best. Or a wine glass. So if you don't have a tulip-shaped glass, I'd rather pour it into a white wine glass to just give you that opportunity to just get the aromas. We spent 12 months making all those beautiful flavors in a winery, and I suppose to be able to really taste them and explore what's happening in the glass and allowing the aromas to just come out really gives it an advantage. But, you know, at a wedding, when you're drinking bubbly sort of, you know, without overindulging, you're sort of having more than one glass. I think it's more about the occasion than it is necessarily about the taste. So I think that's where I stand on it. But yes, if I'm tasting MCC or champagne, I prefer to do it in a bigger glass. Bollinger is one of my brands, and I was very fortunate to have the grandnephew of Madame Bollinger with me last year. And he just said to me, he said, Paula, as long as it's in a glass, which, you know, I suppose some of us that have been camping, you might have been tempted to, you know, find something else, but as long as it's in a glass.
Which brings
Love it.
on
Love
to-
that.
Sorry to interrupt. It brings on to a fun question Jaegers has posed. Just a guess of how many bubbles in a bottle? Somebody has said over 1 million. I don't know if there's anyone else that wants to have a guess at it. Talking about the bubbles escaping from a flute or from a wine glass. Can you give us the right answer, Paula?
I actually don't know. Jaegers would probably be able to answer that better than any of us. But the bubbles are also formed by a flaw in the glass. So every glass has got a flaw, and that's actually what allows you to see the bubbles. So yeah, I suppose also it depends on whether we are talking about a vintage bubbly or whether we're talking about a more current or non-vintage. So I don't know if Jaegers knows the answer to that, but I would imagine millions.
Yes, this was indeed a fun question. I'm always taken aback with the number, but the common answer for this is 49 million bubbles in a bottle of champagne or Cap Classique, which would equate to about 7 million per glass. Obviously, there are other technicalities involved, but this is a common answer that is normally given.
My word, thank you. Well, we were a bit out with our million, 49 times.
A million is fine from somebody who was clever, quick enough to answer.
Thank you, quite right. Thank you, Jaegers.
Jaegers.
And then one final question, Paula. Sarah actually sent this question through. What are the bubbles in MCC and how do they get there?
So MCC and champagne are made in a way that we use a second fermentation. So with a still wine, we obviously either add yeast or use natural yeast to let the fermentation to produce alcohol. And with MCC, we allow that process to take place. And then in a bottle, we add an additional yeast component as well as what we call a dosage. So sugar or a fruit, a grape sugar, and we allow the second fermentation to take place in the bottle under a crown cap. So that because it's under pressure, the bubbles form into the juice or into the liquid, and that is what gives us bubbles. In a sparkling wine environment, so something that's a bit more commercial, they actually add CO2. But through the process of champagne and MCC, this process takes place naturally, and that takes normally in South Africa at least a year, and in France, I mean, sometimes this process will take 2 to 3 years that they allow the fermentation to take place. So I see Import asks, is it vegan friendly? The Corona Borealis isn't, but there are plans to create a vegan product, and I think it'll be the Brut Rosé. There are vegan bubblies around, but Corona at the moment isn't. But yeah, we are working on that. We know it's something that needs to take place.
Interesting. Wonderful.
I think somebody also asked me in the questions just about whether Corona would be involved in the 50-year celebration of Cap Classique in South Africa, and most definitely we will. On the 1st of September, it's Cap Classique Day in South Africa, so watch the space. I'm sure between Lorna and her very clever ways, we will find some way to celebrate that, even if it is virtually. There are many occasions booked for the month of September and October, as soon as the weather warms, and we're all hoping we'll be able to be together by that point. So there'll definitely be opportunities to celebrate Cup Classique this year.
No, it's a special milestone. I think we've all got to do something to celebrate. So watch the space for September with Paula. Thank
Most
you.
definitely.
Um,
Somebody asked about de-alkalized version. MCC at this point doesn't have a de-alkalized version, but there are some wines. So I would be very happy to drop you an email with some options.
Wonderful. Well, ladies, thank you very, very much. I see we have gone over time, but I think we could all be chatting well after 6 and open our bubblies and keep chatting. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. And I certainly hope that you found it informative and inspiring. I am going to email you the recording and all the little bits that you've requested from me, but I'll also keep you in touch with the 3 hosts. So the conversation is not over. So I just want you all to continue with wonderful conversations and networking. And with that, I'm just going to say on behalf of the 3 hosts, a huge, huge thank you and have a wonderful evening. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Lorna. Thank you, Lee. Thank you, Paula.
Thank you.
Fabulous evening. Thank you.
Bye-bye,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah.